The best executive you will ever want to hire is not looking at your job post. They're not scrolling LinkedIn hoping something better comes along. They're not available. They're heads down building something at a company that already has their full attention. Which means if your hiring strategy starts with a job posting, you've already lost. You're not recruiting, you're waiting. And waiting is how you end up with whoever happens to apply. Here's the pattern I've watched destroy more growth stage companies than any product failure or market timing mistake. A brilliant founder builds an incredible product, raises capital, gets real traction, and then posts a job for a VP of sales on LinkedIn, because that's what everyone does. 6 months later, they've hired someone mediocre. Not because great VPs of sales do not exist, but because great VPs of sales are not scrolling job boards. They're already running sales at companies better than yours. Most hiring systems are built to answer one question: how do we pick the best of whoever applied? That's the wrong question. It optimizes for whoever's available and convenient. It's like picking fruit off the ground. Easy, fast, but bruised and not fit for the work you're trying to do. The executives worth hiring are still on the tree. You have to climb to get them. That distinction between playing defense and playing offense is the difference between building a leadership team and inheriting whoever shows up. Playing defense means posting and waiting and filtering. Playing offense means identifying exactly who you need, going out and finding them, and convincing them to leave something great to join something better. Those are not variations of the same activity. They're completely different games. And most companies are playing the wrong one. Let me tell you about a founder I worked with, Series B company, in enterprise software, strong product, real traction, about 28 million in ARR. They were ready to hire their first chief revenue officer. They'd identified the right candidate. 12 years of enterprise sales, leadership, 2 successful exits, exactly the pattern recognition they needed. But she wasn't looking. She was not available. She was running sales at a company that valued her and paid her well and gave her real authority. There's no version of a job post that reaches someone like that. The founder's first instinct was to reach out directly through LinkedIn with a message that said, "We have an exciting opportunity. We would love to tell you about it." No response. He tried twice more. Nothing. He called me and said, "How do I get someone like this?" I said, "You stop trying to get her and start making her curious about you." That shift from pursuit to magnetism is the entire game. Here's what most people don't understand about recruiting A players. It is not a transaction. It is a courtship. And courtship has rules that transactions do not. In a transaction, the person with more need has less leverage. In a courtship, genuine interest creates genuine interest. You're not interrogating a candidate. You're creating an environment where someone exceptional can see a future where they thrive, where the intellectual challenge is real, where the scope of impact is bigger than what they have now, where the mission is worth leaving something good for. That environment does not come from a job description. It comes from how you think, how you lead, and how clearly you can articulate why this moment and this company is different. Let me break it down from first principles, what actually moves an A player. There are 3 levers, and they only work in sequence. Most founders present them in the wrong order or skip them entirely and go straight for compensation. This is why the candidate who seems genuinely excited goes quiet, asks for more time, and eventually says that they have decided to stay. That is not a negotiation failure. That is a sequencing failure. Mission clarity is the first letter. Not a value statement on your website. Not your vision deck. The answer to the question every player is asking the moment they take your first call. Does this company know where it is going? A players have spent years developing pattern recognition. They've seen companies that know and companies that are guessing. They can tell the difference in 10 minutes. And if you're guessing, the salary number is irrelevant. They will not take the call. Role scope is the second lever, and it is more powerful than founders realize. An A player is not motivated by a job description. They're motivated by surface area of impact. What decisions will I own? What will be mine to build versus mine to inherit? Where does my authority begin and end? What does success look like in 12 months that I could not achieve anywhere else? If you cannot answer those questions with specificity and conviction, you're asking them to leap into ambiguity. A players do not leap into ambiguity. They step into clarity. Your job before the offer is to create that clarity in granular, irresistible terms. Intellectual challenge is the third lever, and founders consistently mention it last when it should anchor everything else. The executives worth hiring wake up thinking. They're drawn to problems they have never fully solved. They're energized by complexity that requires genuine invention. If the role is fundamentally a replication of something they've already done, even at a bigger scale, it will not hold them. The intellectual hook has to be real. You have to name it before they ask. Let me give you a different example. Series A company in healthtech, about 40 employees building infrastructure for clinical data interoperability. They needed a VP of engineering and came to me after 2 failed searches. Both times, strong candidates had engaged, made it deep into the process, and then declined. The founder said, "I think our compensation is the problem." It was not the compensation. The problem was that he was presenting an opportunity like a job description when he needed to be presenting it like a mission worth leaving something good for. We rebuilt how he talked about the company from the ground up. Not the pitch, the substance underneath the pitch. What clinical data interoperability actually means for a physician making a life or death decision at 2 a.m. in a rural hospital. What the role actually owns, the full technical architecture, every engineering hire for 3 years, a real seat at the product strategy table. What the intellectual challenge actually is, a problem the largest players in healthcare had failed to solve for a decade, with a founding team that had genuine insight about why. He went back into the market with that foundation, same compensation range as the 2 searches that had failed. The third candidate accepted within 2 weeks. So here's the reframe. You're not filling a role. You're extracting the right person from a life that is already working. That requires a completely different posture than posting and waiting. It requires you to go where they are, earn their attention, and make a case compelling enough that leaving something great feels like the obvious move. Mission first, scope second, intellectual challenge third, compensation last. In that sequence, not because money doesn't matter, but because money without the first 3 creates a negotiation. And the executives worth hiring do not want to be negotiated. They want to be convinced. Here's the part that makes founders uncomfortable. Doing this correctly means doing the work before the search begins. Knowing exactly who you need, not a job title, a specific profile of experience, trajectory, and decision-making pattern. Identifying the best 40 or 50 people on the planet who fit that profile, not who's looking, not who's available, the best people whose personal DNA matches your cultural DNA, and then going to get them one by one with a level of intention and specificity that signals immediately this is not a mass outreach. This was written for you. Because here's the truth that most founders learn too late. One bad executive hire does not just cost you their salary. It costs you the opportunity cost of the right person, the damage to the culture they disrupted, the momentum you spent 12 months building that quietly erodes while everyone waits for the leader who cannot lead at this stage to figure it out. That cost is not recoverable. So before your next critical hire, answer these questions. Are you posting and waiting, or are you going to get what you actually need? Have you defined success for this role in specific, measurable terms before the search begins? Can you articulate the mission, the scope, and the intellectual challenge compellingly enough that someone who is not looking might start looking? Because the executives worth hiring are not waiting for you to post a job. They're busy being exceptional somewhere else. Your job is to make them curious enough to stop.